All right, guys, welcome back to Face the Movies. And tonight we're live. We're live. I know you guys seen me live throughout the week, but tonight's a special one. And the reason why is because we're talking about one of my favorite franchises of all time, which is the Final Destination franchise. Unfortunately, I got the 4-disc box here, but it's okay. We'll live, hoping for that 4K, but we'll talk about that. Now, tonight I have some awesome guests, two buddies of mine that I'm so excited to have on here. And the first one I'm gonna bring on here, I'm bring here in order. Q.
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Nothing much, man. I'm excited to get into it, man.
Dude, we're gonna have a blast, man. We're gonna have a blast. And last but not least, the ultimate Steven.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, buddy?
I'm ready to dive into all the death traps and freaky occurrences that happen in Final Destination.
Dude, I was so when I found out that the new movie was coming out, I absolutely lost it because out of all the franchises out there, this has to be my top favorite because of, even though obviously a lot as you go down the line, not all of them hold up as well. They're so iconic, man. That first one just really stays with you, and especially coming from our generation growing up. I mean,
For sure.
it's phenomenal, man. And I do want to ask you guys. We'll start in order with Q. Q, what did you feel, man? Like when you heard that they were making a new Final Destination?
I was thinking, it's been long enough. Normally franchises that, and I'm only speaking towards the early 2000s franchises and beyond. There was a time where the sequels became a bit much, where it stopped being about the importance of the story and just started becoming a little bit more repetitive and more about the kills. So I think enough time has passed between that last one to now to where we're ready for it. Mm-hmm. We're definitely more than ready for it.
Absolutely, man.
I agree.
And Steven, dude, how did you feel, man?
So I was a little bit more cautiously optimistic until I saw that trailer. So especially, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, I think the first one came out right before I was about to get into high school, right? So I just remember how impactful those movies were when I first saw them. Obviously, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit further as we get into this, but yeah, man, I have high hopes. I'm hoping this new one delivers. I haven't had a chance to see it just yet, but yeah, I just got done watching all of them, so I'm excited to discuss it with you guys.
Dude, that's one thing too, that when I saw that you were on that journey in the last week or so, kind of rewatching them all, everything, I felt like everything aligned. I know I was talking to Q a little bit earlier, and he didn't get the chance to rewatch them all, and same thing on my end. Yeah. But I had them so memorized that I was like, you know what? I'm ready, man. Like, I'm ready to get into it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Now I have all these irrational fears of things that I wasn't worried about since the last time I saw them. So, just be extra cautious in the kitchen and as I'm driving,
it's one of those things where, the writers and the directors, producers, everybody just did such a phenomenal job where it impacts you in real life like that. Till this day, where the movie, let's say, came out 15 years ago, till this day, you're still like, you're older, you're a different person, and you're thinking differently, and then you still have those flashbacks where, just especially deaths where some of them didn't quite make sense. Like,
no, not at all.
You're thinking to yourself, like, this would never happen to me, but then you still kind of look around, you're like, well, just in case.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I could speak for everyone that saw these movies as they were coming out, but I will say I'm extra cautious about driving behind log trucks when I'm out on the expressway. We don't have as many out this way, but even like those large semis, like I'm good. I'm a couple lanes over for sure.
Dude, every single time I see one of those trucks, I just think to myself, I'm like, Final Destination, man. It's very few movies that have impacted me that way, like this franchise.
I'll go along and I'll ask you guys this. Do you guys feel like that one particular scene is a huge part of pop culture? especially with the logs, because
Yeah.
I don't know a single person in my life that is just outright terrified to be behind a truck like that. I mean, it's everyone.
I swear it's I would say between that and obviously in the first one, like the idea, I think we've all been on a flight before where you get a little bit of like pre-flight jitters.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think this escalates it up to like 12, given the outcome to it. So for someone like myself, I have never really been huge on flying, so that terrifies the shit out of me.
Speaking of like these type of fears and stuff, let's go around. I'll start with you, Q. Let's go around, and I guess out of the entire franchise, right? Like out of all 5 movies, I saw the 6th one already today. I know you guys haven't seen it yet, so we'll stick with the first 5. What are your and if you want to say more than 2 or 3, you can. But which scenes, which deaths affected you, that like gave you the most paranoia from the franchise?
Oh man, I would say probably 3, believe it or not. And I'll explain. I'll explain the scene. No, I think it was the 3rd one. It was the 3rd one.
Okay.
I love roller coasters, for example, but every time I get on a ride, I think back to that original first scene of it, because you think about roller coasters when you're on them. They make all kinds of noises, especially on those old wooden coasters.
Mhm.
They make all those noises and it rattles, and all of a sudden your nerves are just shook, because especially after you've seen that movie, you're like, oh man, I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Am I gonna go flying out the cart somewhere?
I think we've all had that thought that potentially could happen, especially like the ones that are super janky, but
yes,
that takes it to a completely different level.
And Q, so we got number 3. So number 3 is the one that got you. And then as far as for deaths themselves, like which ones were the ones that kind of like freaked you out?
Oh man.
Like an entire franchise.
I'm gonna say, okay, I got 2 of them because they're kind of tied.
Okay.
This is going back. I think it was 2. It was actually 2, I think. The scene where the mom and the kid leave the dentist, and he's out there playing with those pigeons, and the glass falls down on him. And I'm thinking to myself, I would think that the glass would shatter, but no, it just crushed him.
Yeah.
And then my other one, and the thing about that scene is, every time I watch it, I can't help but laugh because of the situation that's going on. The kid's like sitting there just messing around with the pigeons, and it falls. But the other one would have to be, I would still say the 3rd one. The 3rd one to me is just sticking to me the most. Not the 3rd one, but no, that was 2nd. The 3rd, when the jock is on the machine, and he's sitting there yelling, and the machine comes apart and it just smashes him. That was brutal.
Dude, you're giving me PTSD right now, man. I'm starting to get flashbacks. Dude, and Steven, what about you, brother? Which one's
So I guess it has to kind of piggyback off of the first one, but spoiler if anyone hasn't seen the 5th one, but there's a little bit of like a tie-in to the first one with it. It's just that you see that incident that takes place on the plane where it's like that much more like you're basically seeing it from the perspective of who's actually on the plane when this goes down. Listen, like I said, the idea of like what happened in the first one is terrifying, but to see it from this perspective was like that much worse for me. And I would have to go off of like what Q was saying earlier, where the guys at the dentist, or the guys at the dentist's office, and then obviously like it doesn't end well. The other one that I could think of, not that this has never been something I've been like totally worried about, but when I think it's in the 5th one where the chick's in she's going to get LASIK surgery, and it's not. Listen, I don't have contacts. Glasses. I don't really know like what that procedure is normally like, but if I am in that position, I hope to God that never fucking happens. You know,
dude. Like I'm right there with you, man. Like, I mean, the LASIK. I wear contacts, and funny enough, even after seeing that, it still doesn't freak me out, just because of like all the other, like I'll tell you right now, man. For me, the bridge scene. Every time I walk over, and I think the bridge was, if I'm not mistaken, number 4. I think. No, it wasn't number 4. I
it was
think it was number
5.
5. It was
Yep.
5. And for me, when I drive over a bridge, actually doesn't bother me as much. It's when I walk over one. I'm always thinking when I walk over that it's just gonna like open up under me, and I'm gonna fall through. But besides that one, I would say obviously the log. I mean, that I think that's anybody that was born during our time that like that saw that movie, they will forever be concerned with like driving behind. Not even a log, it's just with anything. Anytime I see like a ladder that's shaking in back of a truck, I mean, it could be a broom, it doesn't matter, man. Like I'm always staring at it, thinking, okay, I got to get over like very far away before something happens. And then I have, it's kind of hard, man, because I'm not afraid of flying at all. But that I always think of that feeling when he looks out the window in the first movie and he sees like the wing on fire.
Oh yeah.
And
Yep.
whenever I've been on a plane and I've looked out the window, I'm always like, oh man, please don't be on fire. But go ahead.
Oh no, can I add in the other one I completely forgot about was the tanning bed death.
Dude.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I didn't really ever tan like that up until like leading up to when my wife and I were about to get married, and I just remember being in that tanning bed and the thought crossed my mind about the third movie and just how terrible that ended up. But that's like another one that's just so graphic and it just escalates so quickly for the monster in there, you know.
Talking about that one, I mean, because that one I've tried tanning beds back in the day, and that was something that I always had that thought. And I remember I would always open it and close it like 14 times, just checking it. I'm like, okay, there's no weird lock here, right? Like looking around the room, no lamp's gonna fall on it and lock me in. But that one in escalators, that's one that when you said that, I thought about every time you get on an escalator and it's just kind of getting stuck or something and like getting your foot ripped off. Like I know it's not really fully possible, but I mean,
I remember hearing something about when I was younger that there was a kid that something happened where the shoelace or like a part of the shoe got caught in the escalator and they lost a toe. Now I don't know how like possible that is, but I'm not gonna lie. I mean, what you see in Final Destination, obviously that dials it up by quite a bit.
Man, oh man. Yeah, the other one I forgot to mention this one too. The other one that got me was in the second one where the guy's like I guess he's hit the lottery and he comes home with all this stuff and starts throwing just a bunch of stuff on the stove to cook stuff, and explosion happens, his apartment is on fire, he's leaving to get out of it. And as soon as he gets down, the spaghetti that flew out of the house, he slips on it, falls on his back, and the ladder, the fire escape ladder that just he came down from comes down to his face, and he's like, okay, oh my god, and all of a sudden it just impales his eye.
Death by spaghetti.
No, thank you.
Gosh,
dude, death by spaghetti.
Yes.
That's it. And I found that scene funny because I remember him laying there and thinking like, oh, I really am lucky. And
yes.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he kissed something like his ring, or he kissed. I think that's what it was. I think it was his ring.
It was the ring.
And then afterwards, like,
yeah.
But and oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, kind of jumping off of that, the elevator death.
Oh
yeah,
man.
that's another one that it's kind of. I mean, obviously, escalators and elevators. I mean, you use them pretty frequently, but yeah, that was another one where I think we've all had that thought, like, what if this could just bottom out, or just cable snap or something like that, and that's it.
Isn't it crazy how no matter what safety regulations, how many times they have like these extra brakes on those elevators. Because I mean, I compared to how it used to be back in the day where it was just like one pulley type situation until now where there's so many precautions and we still go into an elevator no matter what. We're still, this thing could just collapse
Yep.
at any moment. I mean, that's one of the things about film, that it could really transcend to just something that you're watching to the point where it feels like something you're living. And I feel like Final Destination really, like, they really did that, man. I mean, we could all argue about the, you know, the diminishment of each movie, like some movies getting a little cheesier, the CGI and all that. But I mean, the fact that it just became so part of pop culture like this, that every aspect of our lives, man, like it makes you think twice.
For sure.
It really, like, it's so impressive.
So when, like, what was your guys' experience first getting into the franchise, or like even the first couple movies? Like, where did you guys initially see them, or kind of how did that come about?
I'll start off with that. I want to say I think it was either in 8th grade or freshman year of high school. And at this time, for the people watching, if we've got young people watching, there was a time period where we had places called video rental stores.
Yep.
And there was this movie no one could stop talking about. Like, oh my God, you got to see Final Destination. You know, this movie is about where death kills everybody. You know, I'm thinking, what death?
Yeah.
So then, you know, at the time, go into my local movie gallery, and my mom rented it for us. And that's one of those films, especially with the first one, because up until that point, there's never been a movie made quite like that, where everything in it is kind of like basic nightmare fuel for every scenario in life. And I just remember watching it and thinking, oh my goodness, now I don't ever want to get on the airplane. So, and going back to school to talk about all the deaths that happened, man, it was such a big talk of the school kind of a movie where, like, you had to see it. You definitely had to see it.
GC, what about you?
I remember watching it on VHS, and I was in high school at the time, and man, like, I mean, this movie that first movie impacted me so much, and in such a way, because I've always loved cinema and like especially the horror genre. But I mean, this movie really, I went through this rabbit hole because of how realistic it was. Like, I just kept researching and thinking, man, imagine, I mean, it's not like you have like a serial killer, like you have Jason or Michael Myers and somebody created these characters. Like, this is like straight up death. And the fact that you don't see someone and it's just happening all around you, and then it's just like nobody pays attention. They're like, oh, it was just an accident. Like somebody, like Cameron here said about Todd's death in the first movie, where he just kind of, it looks like he hung himself in the shower.
Yeah.
And dude, and then the water just like disappears. I thought that was so well done. I mean, you couldn't even tell that it was I don't remember if it was CGI or not, or if it was some practical effect that they did with the water, but it was so well done that, I mean, man. But I do want to say that what this movie impacted me the most was the roller coaster scene by far. Out of all this, I mean, after I saw that movie and that scene, I was never able to get into a roller coaster like with ease. Like, it's always been, and it's not even the fact of like the roller coaster going off the rails or anything happening. It's always the thought of it getting stuck and me being stuck upside down. Like, I just if I'm gonna go, like, I just wanted to go off the rails fast and just make it quick. But the fact of like being stuck upside down and falling off and just like having to feel and deal with all that, or God forbid you fall off and you survive with everything broken, and then just something like it lands on you or something. I'm like, oh man. So for me, that's what it was. I was watching it, the first one on VHS, and yeah, like it's such an awesome experience. Well, what about you? What about you, Steven?
So I got it mixed up a little bit. Final Destination 2 was the one that I remember as I was going into high school. That was the one that I heard about the most, obviously, because of all like the more notable death scenes that happened in that one. But I went back watched the first two in high school, wanted to see what they were all about. And that was like right around the time that would have been pre-Saw. Saw was like the other really big franchise.
Yeah.
Like I felt like around that time. But very, very different types of franchises. I felt like this is a little bit more accessible. You're obviously not dealing with like Saw is pretty graphic, right? I mean, I think we can all agree on that. And yeah, I just have like fond memories watching these movies. Like there's a lot of nostalgia, especially with the first two. Yeah, I overall like I really enjoy this franchise. It was fun to really go back and revisit it.
Do you? I want to ask you guys a question. I'll go around. Do you feel that they like as the franchise progressed and more movies came out, did you feel like the CGI impacted the experience for you, like the realisticness of it, or I guess a possibility of it?
Well, I will say, to me, it felt like they used a little bit of CG in the first and second one. It wasn't until the third one they kind of turned it up a notch, and then from there they started getting a little bit more and more silly with the CGI. But I will say it's still like to this day. That's why I still call this franchise. Like people talk about how they're impressed with Disney series of the Marvel series of the What If series.
Yeah.
I feel like to me, Final Destination is like one of those ultimate what if scenarios that you're watching, which with each entry that you never think of just by walking down the street and seeing some crazy stuff happen just because death caused it. It's like the ultimate what if.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it felt like, I mean, 3 always felt like it was an extension off of like the first two. Like the first two, I mean, you could basically wrap up those two movies and it's like it's got a very self-contained story. 3, I felt like had like some lingering ties to the first two. And then if I remember correctly, I think wasn't 4 completely separate from, like they didn't really make any references to the first 3, if I recall correctly, or maybe like the flight 180 or 180 gets alluded to at some point, if I remember correctly. But
I believe so. I believe they did like allude to it at some point on there, because one thing too, it's with, I mean, all the way back to the 5th movie, they do wrap it around with a nice little bow, and I mean I was never expecting that. That was,
I wish we would have, I'll be honest, like upon rewatch, I wish that we would have gotten a little bit more Tony Todd. At least like, you know, I don't know about where like the 6th one takes it, but I just felt like we didn't really, I think for 3 and 4, you didn't really get an appearance by him, and then you got one from him in the 5th one. But I just wanted to know a little bit more about that character, just to see like, okay, who is this guy really? And at least all the way through the 5 movies, you never really get an answer.
well, Steven, buckle up.
No. Oh, okay. All right. Well, here we go.
Wait a minute. We've got someone. All right, everybody watching, all of our viewers, we've got a special guest.
Ooh.
And you guys ready for it?
Oh yeah.
Ready.
Bring him in. There
No way. Let's go.
Cheers.
What's up, man?
What's up, man? I got home from work. I was like, I'm gonna surprise them and pop in.
Dude, I think right now I'm just waiting for like the comments to explode, and they're gonna be like, yes, bearded booklet guys here. Dude,
What's up?
Chris, we've got so we went around, you're not in too late either, dude, but we went around, we kind of talked about some of the memorable deaths in the franchise that kind of traumatized us, that stuck with us. And pretty much I guess where were we? Steven was asking earlier too, where were we when we saw the first film? Like what format did you see it in? Like what were your thoughts? But dude, yeah, if you wanna go for it.
I mean, to answer the second question, we had the first Final Destination on so VHS we had it on. I remember because I had like a little bit of a I don't know what the terminology would be, like a not like, you know how
It's like
they would have, like,
holographic, isn't it?
yeah, it was almost like a holographic, yeah, where it would look like an oil slick almost.
Yeah.
And it was my parents that showed me that. What's up, Dark Room? It was my parents that showed me that, and just like absolutely addicted, man. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. Like, I remember them showing me and me being so obsessed that I would like invite people over from the neighborhood, and, like, sit down and make them watch Final Destination, and I would stare at them during the death scenes, you know, like just to kind of see if I can see any audible like reaction to it. As far as favorite death, what up, Spooky Nerd Club? As far as like favorite death, I would probably say it's always been Sean William Scott's beheading in the first movie.
Oh,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's always been just because of it's his freak out beforehand where he's like,
Yeah.
it was you the whole time, and then all of a sudden you see the flip up and the metal hits the train tracks and it shoots off, and it's so clean, like you could tell it's a great practical effect.
Yeah.
And it's a master of editing how well it's done. And it's not overly graphic either, which is nice, you know. But yeah, I would say that's my favorite. And I'm going to throw in a second one. I forget his name, the stoner guy getting cut into 4 different pieces.
Oh,
Yeah.
in the field?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude.
Yeah, with the explosion.
With the barbed wire flying and whatnot. Oh man, that was beautiful.
GC,
He's just standing there and his body just falls apart.
Yeah.
So GC, I think you were asking earlier, like with these movies, obviously they started incorporating more of like CGI into it. Chris, did you feel like that took you out of the experience, or did you feel like the tone changed, like, you know, like it with the sequels, I guess, as it went on?
I don't think it really like fully clicked for me until I noticed it in Final Destination 3, but it never took me out of it per se. It was really like the Final Destination when it started getting too crazy.
Yeah.
What Final Destination 2 and 3 especially have always done a good job at being kind of a perfect balance between visual effects and practical effects. Like, you know, the guy who gets cut into 3 pieces, like that's a real effect that they did in front of a green screen where they built the body and then they stuffed it with innards and then they pulled it apart and then they just put that in front of a green screen and added practical blood and stuff. Final Destination 3, as much as I enjoyed that movie, took it way too far for me, especially when what's his name is holding on to the roller coaster and he's like flying like Superman, you know,
Yeah.
on the track.
Yeah.
Or
So goofy.
His like actual death when the weights fall on his head and it just turns into like a red like it's like
Yeah.
wasn't necessary, you know, but yeah, definitely. I think too, these movies never really had like great budgets, so I feel like the CGI was never as good as it could have been. And watching the trailer for Final Destination Bloodlines, the CGI worried me, but it looks really good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm tripped up, is like the CGI looks like it's really well done. So, you know, I just hope it toes that line very nice.
Well, I'll definitely get to that towards like as we get like towards later on the live. And again, I promised, I was telling Q earlier that there is not a single drop of like ruining the movie at all for you guys.
You saw it?
I just saw it 2 hours before this stream. That's why I was thinking, I was like, it would be great to also kind of review it briefly, but without any spoilers, nothing at all. Kind of just how I'm pretty much rating my feelings towards it, and how I felt comparing it to the originals, because it definitely is a new demographic. It's a whole. We've all seen the trailer too. I mean, you see the cast, and they're all dealing with different life problems compared to the first one when it came out, and it's like you don't really see cell phones in the first one or anything like that. So it's definitely different, but I want to go around and ask, out of all the out of all the possible ways to die in the Final Destination universe, which one do you think you would like? It would be be the one that you would fall into.
Oh shit.
Oh man.
Listen, as long as it's not like I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. Is that pool death? Like that's not a way for anybody to go out. So hopefully no one's picking that.
I would say, oh no, my light just slowly dwindled.
Well, not even that you pick it, but more of like if it was like no choice at all, like it was your demise. Like which one do you think would death would plan for you?
I would want to be taken out like Terry in Final Destination, just get whacked by a bus unexpectedly. Like that feels like my way to go. You know what I mean? I'd be happy with that, I think.
And I will say for me, I'm gonna piggyback off of that a little bit in the same movie and say the sign falling down at the very end.
Okay.
Where the sign falls down, yeah.
Because you could die in France. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Live it up.
Yeah, that's what I would go for.
Man, I was telling the guys earlier that I'm like not the biggest fan of flying, so I just hope that life doesn't like come full circle, and it's like you had the moment where I think it's in 5 where he's like basically on fire in the seat or whatever, like while he's on the plane. Like I don't know. I hope it doesn't ever come down to that.
If I had to be somebody on that plane, I want to be the person who gets like skinned and gets like tossed across the airplane during the explosion. If you notice, there's an explosion and somebody's like skinned torso just like flies across the screen real quick. That's what I want.
Dude.
What a way to go out.
I remember too that he's like the main protagonist. He's just looking around, and he's like, "What the hell is happening?" And people are just screaming and flying out of the plane, and this guy's like, "Oh God, I'm so screwed."
Oh, doesn't hit the girlfriend, she gets sucked out of the seat, and then I think she hits the wing of the plane. I'm like, what a terrible way to go out. Like it's already bad enough you're getting sucked out of the plane, but like you literally just get like basically bent in half.
My favorite kill of the whole airplane premonition is the dude that gets hit in the head with the radio.
Oh yeah, I remember that part.
Moment when somebody gets hit in the head with a boombox.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
across the seats, and it just whacks somebody in the back of the head, and I imagine kills them. That's how I want to go.
Oh man, like for me, it's a tough one. I think, Chris, I'm gonna have to side with you on getting hit with the bus because, I mean, man, I honestly don't want death to just toy with me and make me suffer. I just, you know what, just a nice little bus, a clean shot. That's it. You know,
I hope I say something cool. Like, you know, like she says, you know, you can just drop fucking dead and gets whacked. Like, I wish I could, you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine myself, you know, getting in an argument with somebody on the street and being like, you know what? And read your goddamn booklets and just.
That's it right there. That's gonna be on the tombstone. It's for like, read your damn booklets.
I mean, I don't know what you guys have talked about already, but has anybody brought up the absolute menace that is Val Luton's death and why it's so cruel in the first Final Destination?
We didn't, and now we want you to tell us.
So this poor woman who was just trying to escort and assist the students get to France. She's just trying to get over what happened. She's just trying to drink some tea. The tea mug cracks. She puts it on the computer. The computer explodes, sending shards into her throat. She slowly makes herself to the kitchen while the house is on fire now. And then tries to, the thing explodes in front of her. And then she falls and she tries to grab a knife, or she tries to grab the rag, which is on the knives. And then she pulls the knife, and then the knife falls in her chest. Like, what the hell did this poor lady do to deserve this? Like,
that was back when they like had more thought into each one of the kills, because I feel like as the series goes on, they just become more and more like excessive or just kind of like outlandish, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's they're I would say as a whole they're like the movies hold up. I feel like the later ones are a little bit kind of hit or miss for me though.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the reality of like if I had one of those wood knife holder things, like I'd probably throw a rag on that and never think twice about what could lead to whatever. Like to me, when I was watching the Bloodlines trailer, the barbecue scene,
Oh yeah.
there was little things I picked up on. I'm like, why did he put that beer glass so far away from him? Like the ledge is here, and the man reached and put it all the way at the end, so that way it could fall off. And like, it just gets a little too like you can see the stretch.
Coincidental.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one thing with the franchise that it is true. I mean, you see from the first one and the second one where it's not, especially the first one. And like you said earlier, Chris, it wasn't so gory. It was more of like when the head falls off and it just falls off, right? And then, and as each movie came out, they were trying to make it more and more, try to get a reaction from you, where the secret recipe the entire time is not showing so much of the death, but the subtleties that led up to it, that mystery. Because I'll tell you, that scene that you talked about with Val, I mean, dude, I wish they should like somehow, like I can only imagine the frustration that Death had as he kept trying to kill her, and it keeps and he's just like fumbling it, and he's like, fuck.
That first movie's cruel in a way that the rest aren't. Like the death of I forget his name, his friend
Todd.
Oh yeah, Todd.
Yeah, like it's cruel. In the first movie too, like I love the FBI agents. That little subplot.
Yeah.
There's a great moment with them after they get done interviewing him, and he goes on talking about like what if it's real and all this other stuff, and the guy just looks at him and he's like, what the fuck are you even talking about, dude?
Yeah, when he's talking to him, and at one point where the FBI agent's looking at him, and he's almost like, he talks to him in this like scared tone, and he's like, for a moment there, I almost believed him. And then the guy's like, you know what? I think he told him something like, you're the scary one or something like that.
Sometimes you scare me.
Yeah, but because he even takes like a deep swallow, and he just kind of tries to compose himself. And I mean, man, like the way Devon Sawa like delivered his performance, like I mean, personally, to me, out of the entire franchise, obviously he's always going to be my favorite out of the characters. But I do want to segue from that and ask you guys, out of all the characters in the entire franchise, who do you relate to the most?
Ooh, that's tough.
That is tough.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with some like stumping questions, like.
Okay, I got one.
Yes.
What was the actor's name? Is it TC? Is it TC? It's the guy who does the voice of Kratos in the first 3 God of War games. He was in the second one. Oh gosh, the black guy with the dreads. I can relate to him a lot more because he's sitting there not believing all this stuff that's happening with death and everything, and he's trying to convince everyone else it's not real, but then it starts to happen. He's still in denial about it. It's not real. It's not real.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember him.
I didn't know he was the voice of Kratos.
Yeah, he's the voice of Kratos in the first 3 God of War games. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I would say, and I'm going to say this just because my wife is listening and she loves this character. I'm going to go with Frankie from Final Destination 3.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good one. What about you,
what's
Steven?
he say when they're standing on the devil? He's like, if you move a little bit over to your left, it looks like you're holding the devil's balls. He said.
What about you, Steven? Which one are you picking?
Man, that's tough. The one that I feel like, not necessarily that I can like relate to this character, obviously, because it's a little bit more of an extreme situation, but I feel like in Final Destination 5, so the character Peter, so obviously things escalate for him pretty quickly over the course of the movie, and I know by the end of it, it just felt like there was like it was a very realistic take on say if this actually was actually happening to a group of like friends, I'm sure everyone would have different types of reactions to this. His obviously without like holding someone at gunpoint, but you know, he just starts slowly spiraling out of control. And I was like, that's kind of like the most, I feel like, realistic for somebody to be going through this, like the acceptance and like you're denying that this crazy shit's happening. But that's like the one character that kind of came to mind, obviously without, you know, holding people at gunpoint.
I don't know if like there's any like there's not really any characters that feel very real to me in this franchise. They all feel like just kind of like victims. Like I actually think Devon Sawa's character in the first one is probably the most real of any character of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you guys this. Now you bring him up, Chris. How do you guys feel about how they did his character in the second movie?
Ooh, man. I hated it. Personally, I hated it because it felt very like I know throughout the movies they explain what happens, but it's like somebody said in the comments earlier, like that brick, like him dying from something as simple as a brick is like kind of like insulting.
Yeah.
I mean it's funny for sure because it's like of all of like him losing his mind and then kind of like becoming a recluse and all that and avoiding death so many times, and it's just something as small as a brick. But I don't know, like the way they ended it on the first one, I felt like I don't know why he didn't come back. I don't know if it was a contract thing or money wise or just he had other stuff, but the way they ended it was so perfect.
Yeah.
They could have continued it with the second one. I mean, at least if they kept them alive for the second one, I think that would have been phenomenal. But
it reminds me of the decision to kill off Newt in Alien.
Yeah. I could see that.
You know, where it's kind of just like we A, don't want him back, or B, can't afford to have him back, and we're just gonna come up with some I think the death thing is I think the brick death thing is funny because it's sort of like a like death is just so aggravated. He's like, just fucking die already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, drop a brick on his head. But it does feel like in that whole catastrophe that happens or that we barely see in France, it's like that's what happened. You got hit by a brick.
Well, you know, we actually do get to see it if you watch like the newspaper clippings and stuff like that in some of the movies. I think it was like in the second or maybe third one, or I'm mixing them up, but you actually see pictures and you see the body of the actor Keir. I think that was his first or last name, but you see like the splatter on the floor and everything, and you see the sign hanging there. So it's one of those, these are movies where you have to definitely, like anytime they show newspaper clippings or like news announcements or anything, you have to like really pay attention because they show all those little Easter eggs.
I was going to say, there's a lot of callbacks throughout the series.
Absolutely.
So GC, there's no Devon Sawa forced guest appearance in Final Destination Bloodlines.
Oh man, I wish, man. I wish they would have done something like his spirit. He's like a Jedi, just floating, and he's like.
I think he should like. I think it'd be great if he was like Tony Todd's assistant. Like, you know what I mean? Like he just came out like, death. You're like, oh, there he is. All right.
You know that would have been a brilliant idea if they did something like that, where he's like working in the mortuary. And Tony Todd's like working on a body. And just Devon's character is just quiet. He doesn't say anything. It just passes him the tools. Kind of like he's like a trapped soul or something.
Tony Todd's like, sorry, he's he doesn't talk. He got hit by an head with a brick. He doesn't talk.
And look, the funny thing that I think about it is, you know, I'm pretty sure he'd come back and do the movies again, because I mean he did the Chucky series. I mean, he sure enough he'll come back and do this if they ask him to come back.
I mean,
there's no way though. Like how would they bring a character back unless he like faked his? Well, even then it's like he can't fake his death because death would know. Like I guess
I like to think he had like a Bill and Ted moment, and he went into the afterlife and just beat death at a bunch of games, and then they resurrected him because he won.
You know what would be a good way to bring him back? The one way I think it would actually work if they did, let's say, another movie or something, right? Hypothetically, they somehow make it as all these movies were a premonition. It was one long ass premonition that he realizes that by getting off the plane, he was setting a chain reaction that affects all these people. So maybe they could bring him back that way, where it's just like all of a sudden he's sitting on a plane. And I mean, I don't know, I guess the CGI would age him backwards to make him look like from that movie, and then it would show like 10 years later or something like that. But
I mean, honestly, this might be a hot take, but I actually think bringing Ali Larter back in the second one is also a mistake. I think this is a franchise where you never have to bring back anybody, and it will never affect the quality of the movies. And the only great time that this franchise calls back to the original is at the end of Final Destination 5.
Yep,
when
absolutely.
You're boarding the plane and you find out they're all that was all the connection I needed. I never needed Ali Larter back. I like, even if you mentioned, because obviously I think Flight 180 is like a constant, you can keep reflecting back to the incident, but I don't need Devin Sawa back. I don't need those characters back. I don't need descendants of that line. I don't need any connection to that. Just give me a group of people and death.
I was going to ask, like, what was your guys' consensus on Ali Larter's character? What did you guys think about, like, kind of? I mean, we obviously see a much different characterization of her in the first film compared to the second, but kind of going off of what Chris was saying, did you think that she needed to come back for the second one? Did you like her character? Like did she really bring something additional to the second one?
I know I might be the only one here in the room that might think this, but I personally enjoyed seeing her character develop compared to being like the quiet, almost kind of just like scared like girl in the beginning, like in the first movie, where she's just kind of like following him and she's kind of more emo and all that. And then in the second one, I like the fact that she pretty much just lost her shit, and she was just like, she was very tough, but you could tell that like her acting, I mean, I believe that all that had taken a toll on her. I mean, dude, she even had like the bags under the eyes, and she was just, you could tell this girl hadn't had a peaceful day since the incident. So I did like that. But it is true what Chris said. I mean, we didn't need her in it. They could have just came up with like a good story for it, and they figure out on their own like how to cheat death. They didn't need her to kind of hold their hand. But I mean, I liked her development.
I'll be honest. I think she's tougher in the first movie. I mean, this is a character with a high schooler with who this no longer has parents. You know what I mean? She's a wonderful artist. She does the sculptures. I mean, she's pretty. I would argue that's a great interpretation of a strong female character in the first movie. You know what I mean? She takes everything and handles everything much better than any of the male characters do.
Yeah, absolutely.
She doesn't take any shit. And in the second movie, she's just a vessel of information from
a plot device.
Yeah, that's, I love Ali Larter as an actress. I was happy to see her back. But it just felt like let's just bring back somebody instead of figuring out another way to tell the story. You know what I mean?
It felt like it was, sorry, I just felt like it was kind of like what they did with like when they had like the newer Scream movies, and it's like you bring the legacy character back to kind of continue to keep moving the story forward in a way. But yeah, I don't know, I think it maybe could have been handled a little bit better.
I will honestly say, to me, it felt like they copied Sarah Connor in the second one. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah,
she felt like a Sarah Connor in that series. Because if you think about the Sarah Connor character from Terminator, she's a sweet, strong young woman in the first Terminator. In the second one, she's all strong and smart and knows everything. And I feel like they just kind of kind of copied that character and made it into her character in the second one, and I didn't like that. I really didn't. I gotta agree with Chris on that. I feel like she was a much stronger character in the first one than the second one.
Well, so I'm always the person who I like when I watch Smile. This is the perfect example, right? When Smile came out,
Mm-hmm.
I loved everything about that movie except the investigation part. That's always the part of the movies that I hate. Is when because it's always the same. It's like they always go to a library, and a library always have those weird newspaper archive tools that I've never seen in my life. I don't even know if these are real, right? But for some reason they go and they see them, and then they go and they find somebody who was mentioned to survive something in the newspaper. It's always like the most derivative part of the movies, right? In Final Destination, you face the unfortunate circumstance of having to catch up. And look, I agree with Brian.
He knows.
You have the unfortunate situation of having to catch these characters up on what's happening because we know more than they do. But there has to be a better way to do it than let's just bring back this character and she'll tell them. But especially she dies at the end. She was no help. She didn't save anybody, and in the end, she killed Kratos.
Yeah, she killed Kratos.
Dude, the way she looks back at that scene where out of nowhere it's like she just looks back. All I figured at that point is like just add a wink while you're at it. And it's just an explosion and just her face, everything just melts off. And you see her body like fly and hit the wall.
Yeah, that's my favorite is her body flying through the air.
Yeah.
in slow motion.
And it's always funny too because the body, it's like you see her, but then the actual corpse, it's like so much smaller. Just
it is.
Across.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think Final Destination 2 is fun. I don't go back to 2 as much. I know Brian would know if he's still in Final Destination 2. The DVD was something interesting. I think it was like the Buena Vista Collector's edition. There was some sort of like unique release for that.
I remember it. It was Infinifilm. That's what they called it.
Oh, yeah,
Infinifilm.
Yeah, Infinifilm. So I had that DVD. But honestly, I think it got the coolest when Final Destination 3 came out on DVD.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, one, because the widescreen and the full screen release were 2 different colors. You had the red case or the blue case. Mm-hmm. And then you had the like choose your own fate version of the movie.
That's cool.
And a lot of people don't know Final Destination 3 has like an hour and 15-minute documentary, behind the scene documentary. That's fantastic. There was so much cool stuff about. I remember the DVD menu was the carnival games. There was so much fun stuff about this franchise, man. When it came to home media that I miss,
or like the holographic screen, like the cases too, where you like turn them and they had the
holographic. Yeah.
That third one, when it came to that third one was probably one of my favorite physical media memories ever, because it paid homage to the what was the name of the fortune teller machine from Big? It kind of had that printed off the little tickets of fate that you choose to fate. And you could basically just choose death, whichever death that you wanted, or it was picking which character lived or died. But you finally figured it out. I know I finally figured it out doing it for the first time. They eventually all the characters still die the way they do in the movie.
Yeah.
It's prolonged.
So I have to give Final Destination 2 a ton of credit, because there is a mini documentary, I think it's like 35 minutes long, on Final Destination 2 about the gore effects in the movie and how they did them. It's like a really comprehensive behind the scenes, but the first like 10 minutes of it is this really cool history of gore in movies. And it starts off talking about the Grand Guignol Theater and Herschel Gordon Lewis and the Blood Feast. I mean, it shows clips from like Alone in the Dark, which was a New Line movie, all the New Line horror films. And I remember becoming obsessed with Herschel Gordon Lewis and all because of that. But years later, when Alone in the Dark got put out on Blu-ray from Scream Factory, I was watching it and there's a clip. Anybody here ever seen that movie?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh wait, Alone in the Dark, is that with Steven Dorff?
No, you're thinking of the Uwe Boll adaptation movie. I'm talking about there's a slasher, sort of a slasher movie, early 80s horror film called Alone in the Dark. And there's a great moment when one of the killers kills somebody in a parking lot with a what's the 3-pronged garden tool?
Damn.
You know, it's like the short handle one. He kills somebody with that wearing like a Jason mask, like an authentic goalie mask. And that stuck in my head. I was like, what movie is that? For decades, I could never find out. And then one day I was watching Alone in the Dark and I was like, oh, there's that fucking movie scene. So yeah, Final Destination 2. That's all I have to say about
that. Nice.
Do you guys feel like we kind of got cheated where we never got like a nice box set or anything like that compared to just like this monstrosity?
I mean, look, let's give it credit. Every movie is on a different disc.
No, that is true, actually. You know what? It's funny because I before the stream, I was like looking at it and I was like, oh man, the first movie, like the disc, look at that with the skull. I was like, that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always, like, the movies have cool, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, cool marketing, a cool look. I think that there's a lot of potential to do cool stuff with a release of it, you know? And I think what gets me most upset is that, like, Final Destination, like, they all, and I don't say this a lot, but I think they will all benefit from a 4K restoration. You know what I mean? I think these are movies that will genuinely look better. I think they already have great bonus features. Everybody from these movies, of course, except for Tony Todd, is still alive. You can get Mary Elizabeth Winstead back. You can get pretty much everyone from the first Final Destination back. Like, you can get these people back to do interviews and all that stuff. So, like, the potential is there.
Do you guys think that it would end up being a studio release, or do you think it would fall under like a boutique label to release that? Because I'm kind of, I know we've talked about this before, but I'm genuinely surprised that they didn't time this out to put a 4K out for any of these movies prior to this movie coming out, Bloodlines.
I think a boutique label has the rights and they just couldn't get it ready by then, because I think a studio could have, but also too, if a studio is going to do it, it's probably on the fast track now, because Bloodlines is like a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's lining up for a huge opening weekend debut. I think we're going to witness the re-kickoff of this franchise. I think it's going to be only a matter of weeks before we hear of further sequel talk.
I was about to say fast tracked.
I think after like, I love the franchise and I was definitely pumped about getting like one more movie, but I feel that if they continue on the path that they're on, especially after seeing the new one, because it's tricky, right, with Rotten Tomato seeing that score 93%. But then after me watching it today, I was just thinking, I mean, obviously it's subjective to each person, I mean, you know, the films and all that. But to me, it felt like, I think they need to leave this one as is. I think that if they add anything more, it's going to be a very nasty cash grab. And it's going to really ruin the franchise, because it's going to become something of more of just, how can we gross people out type situation instead of yeah, pretty much. And exactly. And I mean, man, like, I definitely think that when it comes to this franchise, like Chris said earlier, I mean, the marketing is just brilliant. I love that with the trailer for the new movie, it doesn't, like, it gives you little hints here and there, but it doesn't really give anything away at the same time. And they kind of fuck with you a little bit. And it was just, I mean, especially with that truck driving around with the logs, kind of just like advertising the movie. I thought that was brilliant. Like, that was so good to just bring that nostalgia back.
So I was just doing some quick research. What bothers me the most is Final Destination automatically carries a little bit more scale and scope than your standard horror film, right? A little bit, to an extent. So I was just curious. So I looked up the budget for Ready or Not, which is one of my favorite films from the last, I think Radio Silence absolutely killed it with that movie. I think that movie has every bit a wonderful production and look and style, incredibly well. You know what I mean? There's nothing about that movie to me that screams budget constraints. That movie was made for $6 million. Final Destination Bloodlines has a $40 million production budget. And typically $40 million production budget is before marketing and before all of that. And the marketing for this movie has been great. Did you guys see that billboard they did with the
with the hanging bodies? That's fantastic.
And so far the movie's tracking to do, independent sources are predicting $40 million just this weekend alone. Typically, second weekend box office is about a 50% drop on average. So let's say second weekend's 20 million, that's 60 million. You're probably still 10 to $15 million away from breaking even at that point. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a franchise where we have to stay at least under 20 million. Do we need flashy skyscraper death scenes? And I don't know.
I feel like it starts taking you. I mean, I can't speak on like the movie itself, but when I saw that in the trailer, I was like, man, how realistic is this going to be? You know, I mean, like just grounded in the reality that something like this could actually happen. It's kind of hard to say without seeing it, but yeah, hopefully they don't overdo this. I mean, I guess, do you feel like there's room for them to, if they do it correctly, like fast track some additional sequels then?
I feel like if they do, like watching the movie today, it's tough because they do, I mean, a lot gets explained, like a lot, and in a way where you kind of understand the whole universe of Final Destination, which was fantastic. That part's fantastic. I'll say the music, the soundtrack was fantastic. The CGI, there were moments where it was like, cool, like okay, here we go, and then there was a lot of why, like why did they have to go that route? Like there could have been such easier, like such more practical ways, and it's like, to Chris and to your point, like the extravagance of a skyscraper scene and all that, they didn't quite have to, like, so without, because it's hard not to spoil, but yeah, there's ways they could have done it without having it to prolong certain things. I mean, I guess kind of it felt like they were reaching a lot in the movie. And to like Chris's point also earlier, like with the barbecue scene, right? We all see in the commercial where the beer is being placed at the edge and all that. This movie kind of felt that it was just, I don't know, there were moments, it was a lot of thought into the deaths, but a lot of it was kind of just trying to get more of a reaction from the audience than anything else. I think only twice in the entire movie I felt like, oh man, that kind of freaked me out a little bit. But it didn't have, I didn't feel like the deaths in this movie had that impact where I felt I walked away thinking more of, I wish they could have done better in those parts, than thinking, man, I hope that doesn't happen to me. And not saying anything about, I by all means, I mean, I don't think the film, like, it sucked at all. Like I thought it was great. I think people should watch it. It was fun. But it definitely felt different than the other Final Destinations. I think it's also because they're catering a bit more to a newer generation compared to us. Like I was mentioning earlier in the beginning of this, back then when you watch the first movie, they're not using cell phones really to tell like, hey, watch out for this and that.
Yeah.
And then in the second one's kind of the same situation. Like I think the girl had like the flip phone. Like they weren't like, it wasn't, the technology wasn't really included compared to this one. But they did a fantastic job in a lot of things. As we all know and expected, and I know I don't expect this to be a spoiler because we all knew, Tony Todd, I mean, obviously he makes an appearance in every single film. And like we talked earlier, I think, Steven, was it you or was it Q that mentioned that they gave him the reins to do whatever he wanted? Q, okay. And I do want to say that I mean, man, honestly, like it was fantastic. Like I would have given a standing ovation if it wasn't for me standing in the way and ruining the movie for people. But he like it fantastic. I
Okay.
mean, that made up for the shitty CGI that I felt that was shitty. So
You know, it's
Sure.
funny. I haven't seen
Shortcomings.
this yet, but instantly when I think of more recent Tony Todd performances or cameos, I would say I instantly go to the end of the Candyman
Yes.
sequel. When
Yes.
he shows up at the end of Candyman, just floats up and his face gets revealed and he says, "Tell everyone." Every single time I watch that movie, it gives me chills. Every single time, man. I just think, like, at this point, we're living in a post-Terrifier horror world.
yeah,
Mhm.
So I feel like if you're trying to appeal to a younger audience, you're appealing to that generation. You know, so it's got to be gnarlier. But some of the best kills in this franchise, some of the most impactful kills, were the simple ones in the first movie.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in the franchise more disturbing than the close-up shot on Todd's eyes when his eyes go bloodshot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those moments stick with me above people flying off of roller coasters or, you know, Frankie having the radiator fan go through his head. Like all that
Yeah.
stuff's really gross, but nothing to me. And then even too, one thing these movies never did again, in that first Final Destination, in Todd's death, the fact that you see the water pull back in,
Mhm.
Yeah.
they never did that again in the franchise. They never showed the reversal.
Well, the one thing that I feel like, okay, so you were talking about as the series went on, the deaths became like you started dialing everything up. The deaths became more gruesome. There's supposed to be the shock value, but I feel like in that it lost the mounting tension because that's
Yeah.
what I remember the most, especially from the first one. Like those first two movies, I would say maybe like a little, disparity as far as like the quality of each one, but both of those, what they I felt like they nailed that kind of like it's like a very like doomed. You feel like a very doomed feeling through those first two movies, and I feel like as they went on, it's like, well, let's just make this as wild as possible, or like let's like shock value. They traded the shock, or they traded the mounting tension for shock value, which essentially, or I
Yeah.
felt like that at least.
The first movie had so much, like Chris said earlier, it was a dark movie. Like it was a legit dark, scary, like I would never want to find myself in this universe type movie. But and it's true, as like Steven says, I mean, even the new one, like every movie it just kept getting campier and campier, where it's like the deaths are
Mhm.
more exaggerated, and then they keep adding more of a comedic feel to it. And the first one, I don't remember like laughing at all. Like
No, not at all.
the whole
No, it
movie,
was
I'm like,
dark.
man, I'm like, what's gonna happen next and stuff. And it's very yeah, like you said, Chris, with the eyes, just like with Todd's eyes, like man, like that's something that it sticks with you. And then
I feel like the only humorous bit in the first movie is Sean William Scott.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's the only like when Trey does the quick U-turn in the middle of the road and it knocks him off his bike. He's like, "Trey, you dick!"
Yeah.
Like that little,
yeah,
Yeah, no, they're definitely that first movie. It feels like it's directed by somebody who has taken notes from a Hitchcock or a Roman Polanski to slowly build it. And there are deaths in that movie that are very fast. Like you have, I already forgot her name. Her death getting hit by the bus. You have Sean
Mhm.
getting decapitated. But then there's also moments like when Devon Sawa's character is at the cabin and
Yep.
he's, safety proofing everything. And then you have the great moment when everything starts to slip and it pulls down the fishing line and he slams the door and the hook comes through.
yeah,
There's a lot of great moments in that first one that feel so drastically different than the second. I think the second movie did a good job with the kid's death at the dentist, having like the thing fall into his mouth, and he's choking.
Oh,
and,
yep.
But
If you wake up with your pants unbuttoned, we're not paying.
yeah, we're not paying.
Dude, I till this day, because that's gonna lead me to another question for you guys. I still use that line every single time I go to like a doctor or a dentist. It doesn't matter. I always like look at whoever's standing next to me or I'm with. I'm like, if I come back, my pants are unbuttoned, I ain't paying.
So I didn't know that the first one, or like the first movie, was based on, I think, a pitch that they had for an X-Files episode.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, and I was just like, wow, that's kind of crazy that that had been.
Yeah. Jordan's begging
Jordan?
for attention. Don't give him-
You need to get on here.
Don't give him
Jordan.
what he's looking for.
Yeah, Jordan, where you at?
Get on here.
Jordan.
Glenn Morgan and I forget his other name. They were significant writers for the X-Files.
I just wish we could have gotten maybe it was a little bit more of that type of writing that would have carried through, even if it was for like at least a couple of the sequels. Because listen, as much as I appreciate the films as a whole, you can't tell me like the Final Destination. That's kind of like, to me, I felt like that was kind of like a little bit of a step down in terms of quality, the story, like the feel of the whole movie. And come to find out, I didn't know that was the same director as Final Destination 2.
Yeah, David R. Ellis.
I was like, this doesn't even feel like the same director.
Yeah, I mean, you have like, 13 years in between them or something, 10, 11, 12 years. I remember thinking the same thing, and Final Destination 3 is directed by the director of the first movie.
That's right.
Yeah, so they have frequent refunders in this one, but I think
that makes sense why number 3 it had the deaths where they kind of really stuck with you, just like the first one, like with the we're talking about already, the tanning bed, that workout machine, the falling off the roller coaster. I mean, dude, like every single freaking, like most of those deaths were all like I still think about all the time when whenever I'm in any of those environments.
Final Destination 3 is the most similar to the first in the attention to the build up. Yep. Like I love the department or the home improvement store scene. Like when he slips and almost falls onto the vertical saw, and then he gets up, and then they introduce the birds, which is the reason why the nail gun comes out in the first place. Like there's so many clever bits, but the true suspense of the story, which I think the first movie is the only one that got right, is the order. Because the first movie, the third movie, it's fun with the pictures, but that first movie, when Alex pulls out, the map and he traces and figures it out, and then when he throw the wrench in that, like, oh, I was supposed to be sitting here and we switched seats, and now that triggers a different. That's where the fun comes in with the suspense and the storytelling and stuff. And they never really got there again, I feel like. I mean, I don't know about Bloodlines, but.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because I just thought about something that's really important with the franchise. When did Bob Shea sell New Line to Warner?
I thought it was like way. I didn't think that was that. Was that long ago?
Yeah.
Damn.
Let's see. So he sold New Line in 1994.
Oh, was that long ago?
I guess I just think of Bob Shea and Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah. The reason why I was saying it, because I know he still had hands on with what a lot of what New Line was doing as a company. And I felt like when he got forced out from that role, a lot of those movies kind of took a dip in quality. And I want to say, I think Final Destination was one of those movies. I want to say, I think that may have been the case. I could be wrong.
I mean, New Line is the house that Freddie built. They are a franchise company, so like, I don't know, man. I just think I think there's a difference between making a movie out of genuine, like, oh, we have a cool idea, this is original. And then when you get into a sequel, automatically the mindset changes.
Yeah.
And whether or not you intend to or not, and I do think there are sequels that are better than the original. But in the case of Final Destination, I feel like even Final Destination 5, which I like, still felt miles away from that first movie.
Yeah.
You know? I just don't think they'll ever get there again. They could be fun. And I think that's the thing I keep seeing about Bloodlines is people are like, it's fun, it's gruesome, it's the best Final Destination. And I'm like, I don't know.
No, I will say after watching it today, it's definitely not the best Final Destination. I mean, and like I said earlier, I mean, the soundtrack phenomenal. The way they came up with the plot for it, because I was thinking to myself too, I was like, what's gonna happen in this plot? Like, what are they gonna come up with to bring this back? Like, it has to be good. And they did do a good job of that. Like, it was very creative with the way they did that. I wish they wouldn't. I feel like they kind of rode the coattails of the originals, and that's why they kept advertising like deaths from the originals to kind of build up the hype. This movie, it felt like it was its own movie, and I mean, it's a part of the universe, but it felt like it was his own thing. I mean, it was just different, in a way. But
I mean, to me, that first Final Destination, even the scene with Todd's parents, when Alex shows up,
yeah,
and they kind of like blame him. They're like, he was so distraught over, guilt of leaving his brother on the plane that he killed himself. He's like, he didn't kill himself. We were just talking about going to a baseball game next week. Like, that stuff to me is what feels so intimate and unique about that first movie.
It's
and
like the survivor's guilt.
Yeah. Like, dude, that's really, I mean, they never tap into that ever again, because none of the other deaths, like Final Destination 2, you have a bunch of strangers, right? That die, and then they come together. Final Destination 3, you have people who go to high school together that are not friends, very similar to the first one. Final Destination 4, I don't know, you have like a Dale Earnhardt car crash or something.
Yeah.
And Final Destination 5 is co-workers. Like, it just, I mean, come on. Final Destination 4 had people getting his guts sucked out of his butt.
Yeah, it just felt like when I was revisiting it, I was like, listen, there's like little things I can appreciate about the movie, but like the kills, like the setup, it was just so goofy. Like, it felt like almost like a parody of all the other Final Destination movies. I'm like, was that the intended tone with this film? Because this just feels like very, very like
when the mom gets I mean, genuinely, like, I feel like there's a really scary way to capture a lot of the kills in those movies, because like the mom getting the rock through her eye from the lawnmower is something I've thought about myself when on a riding mower cutting my dad's lawn, of like, like so we had a stone driveway, right? And I would be cutting the lawn, I'd be close to the driveway, and every now and then on the lawnmower, I would hit a rock and I would hear it bang, off the house or whatever. I'd always be like, man, it's actually kind of terrifying. I mean, it's not at the velocity that's going to do that kind of damage, but like, I'm like, oh, it's kind of scary. And they just play it off like, oh, she gets this big ass stone through the eye and she's dead. Let's move on. Or like I think, Steve, you and I were talking about the tow truck. Like, never in my life have I been like, man, I really hope one day I'm not drunk out on a mad quest. I forget to put my tow truck in drive. My foot gets, stuck on the thing, it drags me, and then my can of gasoline falls over and ignites, and then I burn being towed.
It's just such a lame way to go out. Like, they're at least the rest of them are like at least like inventive, or like, they're graphic or gory. That one just sucked.
Well, there's ones like the girl at the NASCAR crash who gets hit by the flying tire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at the like.
I hope that never happens to me at a NASCAR event. That would be terrible.
The other thing with like, I would say like out of any of the other events, they're like more realistic. That one, I'm like, how often do you guys get together with your friends and you go to like a NASCAR race?
I've never in my life thought about
Yeah,
it.
I've never
You know?
I've never been to one.
I honestly like the Final Destination. The first Final Destination alone is more realistic, simply because when the plane explodes, so do the windows at the airport.
Yeah.
Mhm,
That
yep.
alone is more realistic than anything that happens in the sequels. Even though I will say, during the highway crash in the second one, my favorite part is the way the truck comes out of the fire like a demon.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
man.
That's
so
like
creepy.
my favorite. That's so cool.
Wait, is that where the
Overdrive.
guy's like trapped in the car? He's on fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he hears it and he looks up and you just see the wall of flames and the truck comes through it.
it's already bad enough. It's like you're literally getting incinerated, and then not to mention you're literally getting smashed by a semi.
But I will say, and now that we're talking about relatable characters, my luck would be like that guy in Final Destination who would hit the lottery and then I would slip on some.
Yeah.
Dude, we just talked about that
Yeah, we
earlier.
talked
That's
about
hilarious. It's like
No.
death by spaghetti.
Dude, my favorite detail in that death is how he's won the lottery and then his voicemail is just full of women calling him back. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I heard you. You know, that's my favorite little detail in that scene. Is that, and then also too, like Final Destination 2 was what 2003. Were microwavable fish sticks like a popular thing? Because that's what he's eating.
It is.
I mean, yeah, because you had like Hot Pockets and the microwavable mini
Fish
pizzas.
stick?
And all
Bro,
that.
you mean to tell me you just won the Mega Millions and you're gonna go home and cook up some homemade fish sticks?
Chris, he's trying to keep it humble, man. He's not letting the fame get to his head.
Yeah, he after like the MacBook that he bought and all the fancy jewelry, and, like that ring. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna eat some fish
Oh.
sticks.
Oh man, the scene I just never remembered about that was when he got the ring off and it fell into the sink and he was
Oh,
sitting there trying to reach for it.
And the fire starts. The fish
Yeah.
sticks start on fire.
And I
That
thought
gave me
the
anxiety.
blades was gonna cut up his fingers, but it didn't. He got his ring out.
Dude, that's what they were so good at, like that little tease where I mean, man, I was white knuckling when that scene came up. I remember thinking, I mean, till this day, whenever the garbage disposal, I have to drop something in there,
Oh,
or like a
fuck that.
spoon
Nope.
falls in there. Dude, I always look at the switch and I'm thinking maybe I should unplug it from the outlet. Some freaking Final Destination
What-
stuff's gonna happen.
Was it in 5 where he's in the kitchen and he is like he checks the plug, which where like the meat cutter or whatever is like plugged into, and then he's like going to mess with it to get the meat out, and then notices it's even after checking it, it's still plugged into the wrong one. I'm like, what an idiot!
He deserved it for sure.
Like, take them all out. Why didn't you do that in the first place?
I feel like Final Destination could be like a weird alternate universe sequel to Maximum Overdrive. Because like, you know what I mean?
I can see that.
Yeah.
I feel like the vending machine in Maximum Overdrive when it goes nuts and starts killing people with flying soda cans, you know what I mean? Or like when he has the meat cutter and it turns
Yeah.
on, like, oh, it's just funny. I was just thinking about that.
Oh, man.
Oh, what can you guys think of any movie that actually follows through with the garbage disposal?
Oh, I feel like there's
Dude, I can't think of one that follows through, but I feel like I've seen at least
Oh.
like 2 or 3.
what. Wait, hold on. Maybe I'm misremembering it. Did they have that happen in the Last House on the Left remake?
Hmm.
I don't like the remake. I don't remember.
I swear. I know there's like the microwave scene. Am I thinking of the right movie? I swear.
When I think of garbage disposal, I think of the Flintstones. And the dinosaur that has they have the dinosaur underneath, that's the garbage disposal. And
Basically the same
he
thing.
eats the spoon and he makes it back up.
I think of when you say garbage disposal, I think of Batman Returns, where Michelle Pfeiffer takes the stuffed animals and starts stuffing it in, and she turns on the garbage disposal and cotton's just like shooting everywhere.
Brian says, yeah, last half of the last season.
It was Aaron Paul. I just looked it up. Okay, so it was
Okay.
Aaron Paul, and it's yes, yep. Brian's right.
Okay.
Fuck that. I'm not touching garbage disposals. I'm not going behind log trucks. I'm not putting my head in a microwave. I'm not doing any of that.
I
No
mean,
fish sticks.
Yeah, no fish sticks. No, I'm not cooking out anymore.
Garbage disposal?
Huh?
Anybody here have a garbage disposal?
No.
I do.
N-
I do.
not
I don't.
anymore. I used to.
Did you take it out for that reason, GC?
No, it's when I left, when I moved and I saw we didn't have one. I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that. That's perfectly fine. The amount of times like a freaking spoon, like one of the small spoons too, that you would have to like get in there to reach for it. I'm like, of course. Why do they make these things so deep? Like, this is crazy. But man, I have a question for the panel as far as since we're talking about the subject of, you know, death and all that fate and all that stuff. What have you guys ever been in a situation like that where you feel like you cheated death, like Final Destination style?
Okay, I got a story. It's pretty grim. It's pretty grim. So just bear with me. So, and it's not actually a story for me. It's more or less for my sister more than anything else. But here in town, we're known for a pretty famous incident that happened with a bus full of kids falling off the side of the interstate. Well, off
I
the rail.
didn't know you lived in the town that Trick or Treat took place in.
Yeah, not that. Yeah, my sister was supposed to be on that bus, and the bus went off because some kid was goofing off riding on the ramp, and the bus flipped off the ramp, and I want to say 4 kids on that bus died, and one of them was her best friend.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was supposed to be on that bus, but she chose to ride with a friend to whatever destination they were going to. So I was like, yikes.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever been anything like that. A couple years ago, so the entrance to my plaza where I work is a double lane, and so left lane and right lane both turn at the same time into the plaza. And I was in the right lane because when I turn into the plaza, I have to go right. I was in the right lane, and typically I tend to like kind of jump that light because people from the left lane try to beat the traffic, and they'll cut that quick to get in front of everybody else. And the light turned green, and for some reason I didn't jump it, so the car to my left got ahead of me. And got ahead of me right as somebody ran the red light and smashed into them, as opposed to me, who would have been right next to them, closer to where the car ran the red light. And I remember being like shaken up by that, because I was like, holy shit, I would have been perfectly right where that car was just before them. And that car came through fast. And they were okay. Like, everybody in the accident was okay. But like, that's really the only thing that comes to mind.
What about you, Steven?
There was this was like a while back, but I remember I was driving out to I was out on my way out to take my final exam, and I was at community college at the time, so this was like a number of years ago. But I was driving out there, and I don't know what happened when my tires blew out, car spun out, and I was on the expressway. Car spun out, hit the guardrail or whatever, and I just remember I was like, I remember when the car was spinning, I'm like, dude, I might be fucked. And thank God, like it totaled my car, and I got out. I was like all shook up or whatever, but there was a car that was speeding that was like kind of right behind me, and then they went around right before that happened. So I'm like just thankful that, you know, I didn't get plowed by the car behind me, or that there wasn't any oncoming traffic. For that expressway at that time of day, there was a lot less vehicles on the road at that time. But any other time, like if you catch it, like, you know, after 4 o'clock, I mean, that area is just like, it's pretty busy. So very thankful.
Dude, I had this situation, man, where I've had a few close calls in my life. Like, I've always felt like I've also kind of related to the lucky dude in the movie, where he's like, he just wins a lottery and all this stuff. But for me, it's always been like close calls like that. I mean, I've been in a motorcycle accident with a close call. I went in the water once, and like at the beach, and I'm like swimming near like these big rocks, and all of a sudden this giant shark starts like circling me.
Oh,
somehow,
what?
Yeah, dude, somehow got out of that one. And the reason I got out of that one was because the shark, it circled me for a bit and then it left. But I knew that when it was coming back was because it was going to come back like Jaws style, like sideways. And lucky enough, like I was like maybe like 10 feet away from like those like big boulders to get out of the water, because it was kind of like a walkway. Dude, I climbed over those boulders, like got all scratched up and everything. And as soon as I got out, within seconds, the shark comes out of nowhere. But like the closest call that I had was, I think this was about 3 years ago. I'm waiting at this light, turns green, and I go to cross over this train tracks. All of a sudden, there was some weird malfunction or something, but I hear a train, and out of nowhere, the guardrail, as I'm about to, like, because I'm going slow, like to go over the train track, out of nowhere the guardrail falls down and blocks me in the front. So I go to back up, and then the other one backs up, like lands on my truck and kind of blocks me in. And I see the train coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, shit, like I am gonna have to drive this truck and like destroy one of these like one of those arm things, because I'm not getting out of the truck and running off or like leaving it there. But dude, I end up having to back up, and I could barely back up too, because there was a car right on my ass and nobody could move. So it was literally a Final Destination scene where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of screwed. I got nowhere to go. So I start doing these quick, like 5-point, like Austin Powers style, where he's in the little golf cart, and I'm just like this in the truck. right when I finally able to get my way out of it, like the train comes, and I'm like, holy shit. And people are just staring at me like, dude, what the hell? And I'm just like, oh, all right, there's a dent on the truck, but I'm okay. Let me just hang out.
Wait, so where did that shark incident happen?
Dude, that happened in South Beach. And this was back when I was in high school too. Like it was out, they called it South Point, and it was kind of like this like very narrow stretch where you could just walk out and stuff. It was probably like a mile long.
Okay.
And at least at the time I remember it being a mile long. But we just kind of went in the water from there and just swimming around and stuff, kind of just trying to look at the rocks underwater and see the fish hiding and all that. But when I start seeing people getting out of the water and I'm the only one left, is when I was like, shit, like I am so screwed. And it's funny because I'm like looking down the whole time with the snorkel, and I look up and I just see this massive freaking shark circling me. And I'm thinking to myself, well, of course, this is my nightmare.
Dude, I would be like, fuck that. I'm never getting back out in the water ever again.
Dude, it took me a while, man. It took me a while. Like between that and my motorcycle accident. Like one day I'm going to work, it's early afternoon, and I'm sorry, not early afternoon, like early morning. And I think this was probably like around 6 a.m. I'm like half asleep still, had a long night. And I'm on the highway, all the way on the left lane. Nobody around, dude. Like it was smooth drive to work. And all of a sudden, this car, I look from the corner of my eye, there's a car driving next to me, and it starts speeding up. And so we're like this, neck and neck, and it decides to go ahead a bit, and it just goes into my lane, and the back bumper just taps the front of my motorcycle. And it wasn't it didn't take me out. So it bumped the bike, and the bike starts shaking. And out of nowhere, I had this moment of where I just kind of like really held on, and everything was stable. For a brief moment, everything was normal, and I took a breath. I'm like, everything's fine. And out of nowhere, the bike just like flips me up like this, and it slams me into the ground. Like it endos me into the ground, and then I just I remember I fell on I fell on my back because I had a backpack on, and I'm thinking, okay, I gotta make sure, I gotta figure out a way to like keep myself from like going into the other lanes. And dude, I remember I flip over. And as soon as I flip over and I'm going in, I'm already like 3 lanes in the highway. There was like about 5-6 lanes. I look over and I see this van right about to hit me. Like literally, it's like one of those like movie scenes where it's right about to hit me, and I just black out. And I wake up, and like I wake up because this lady's like crying hysterically. And I wake up, I'm laying on my back. There's paramedics standing all around me, and they kind of like try to help me up and all that. And I'm just, the whole time I'm thinking to myself, where's my bike? Like I'm thinking, where's my motorcycle? Dude, my belt, my boot shoelaces, my gloves were all torn. And lucky enough, I had like all my gear on, where the most I had was my whole side was bruised for like a week and a half, but didn't break anything. I had a little bit of blood on my knuckles from tearing the gloves. But all I remember, the lady kept looking at me, and she's like, I thought you were dead.
Wow.
And I was like, why? Like, and she's like, because I saw you go under that van. Because from her angle, she thought I went under it and it ran me over. And dude, that lady was like more shaken and like scared and crying hysterically than I was. I mean, that must have been traumatizing for her. And I'm unconscious.
Way to go, GC.
Dude. And the paramedics are like, we got to go to the hospital and like get you checked out. And they made me sign this waiver because I refused. I was like, dude, I got to go to work. I'm going to get fired. And I show up to work, like my clothes is torn up. And my boss is like, dude, go home. Like right now, you go home.
Oh, you're not gonna make it in today, or
yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm late, and he's like looking at me. And I'm like walking in, like kind of like limping, but I'm still have the adrenaline rush. My clothes is like half torn, and I'm just like everything's normal. I'm just washing my hands. I'm like, oh, I'll be ready in a second. Hold on, let me just clean up. He's like, no, dude, go home. What are you talking about?
I'll never forget like when I got in that car accident. Like once the police officer came to like obviously meet up, goes through, make sure like, you know, everyone's good or whatever. And then I asked him because I had to take that final exam. I'm like, hey, is there any way that if I can get like a ride to campus? I'll never forget. He gives me this like roll your eyes look. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to do the right thing here. Like I got to go past this class. And he was like, you have no other way to get there. I'm like, no, man. Like if I'm asking you for a reason. Just eventually made it back to campus, passed my exam, and the rest is history.
So, GC, here's my question to you, man. Before I get off, because I'm almost ready for bed here. Have you seen Clown in the Cornfield?
Dude, after what you said, like
Chris, we're talking about Final Destination.
I was gonna ask if this is better than Clown in the Cornfield.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I'm sure it was, especially after what you had to say. Like, I mean, listen, guys, I'll say this. I recommend watching because it's Final Destination. You know, it's like watching a Saw movie. We keep doing it to ourselves. But I will say that at least for Tony Todd, like I definitely think that this movie needs to be watched, and I think it should be a movie where other producers and directors and writers learn how to give people send-offs. Because obviously we know he passed away in real life, so there's no way to bring him back. And I think they should honor him by not making any more Final Destinations, because sometimes the money's not worth, like, just, I mean, that alone. I mean, I think this money's going to make buku bucks between the nostalgia and, I mean, Tony Todd. He was the soul of Final Destination.
It's such a bummer because I haven't seen the film, but I saw him 3 years ago before he passed, and it's just crazy. When I saw him in the trailer, I was like, man, it doesn't even look like him. I mean, at least the last time I saw him, I don't know. It's like one of those interactions that, like, usually celebrities like that, it doesn't, you know, I mean, we're so, like, I don't want to say disconnected, but it's just like it's very rare that you have these celebrity interactions. For some reason, when he passed, I don't know what it was. Like, it really bothered me, and I think it's just because I did have a chance to meet him. But yeah, hopefully they're respectful of that. I mean, you would hope they do the right thing, but I don't know.
They definitely, I will say, I mean, like he was saying, they let him do whatever he wanted, and man, such that guy. I mean, dude, what a legend, man! Like, what a legend! Like he did what he wanted, that's for sure. And I loved it.
What's so crazy about Tony Todd to me is that you know, for the legacy that he has, the guy, you know, continued supporting small horror because he wasn't getting offered big roles. You know what I mean? I mean, if you think back, like, what's the biggest role he's done he did in the last 20 years of his career? Like, you know, he made fun appearances in Hatchet.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Hatchet. He did the Candyman appearance. But other than that, I mean,
he's got one other one that I'm happy that he did. I'm very glad that he did. He was the voice of Venom in Spider-Man 2 game.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
dude, that guy. I mean, Candyman would not be what it is without him.
Nope.
I don't care who you swap in the role. It would not be. He brought almost like an elegant beauty to that role. And
Mhm.
just his voice, like that was the role to me that he was born to do. Like I love him, you know, the Night of the Living Dead remake and you know all of that.
That's
like,
another good one.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal actor, man. But Candyman was just on another, and I think that's why since 2021 I've loved that Candyman prequel so much, just because it so faithfully, like, to me, that's how you bring a character back. You know, that's how you call back.
Yeah.
And in the world of horror now, which is sequels and prequels and all these other cools going on.
Prequels.
Yeah, all this other stuff going on. You have to find. So, like, when I saw the I Know What You Did Last Summer trailer, the moment the original characters showed up, I was like, God damn it, they ruined the trailer for me. Like, because they always show up like a you know, like a guest on a, like, you know, when you go to see somebody live and the guest comes up on the stage, it's always like it's shot a weird way. It's like I'm like, I don't care about these people, man. I'm like, let's move on. But to bring Tony Todd back as the only recurring character, yes, The Rock. That's right. I forgot about The Rock. But yeah, you know, that's the stuff that bothers me.
Dude, Tony Todd, I mean, he had such a voice. He had such an he it's like Morgan Freeman, man. Like you could just close your eyes and you know it's Tony Todd. And I mean his presence in any movie. I mean, this guy was just, I mean, he always found the way. He could play the most minimal character and he could just steal the show. I mean, he was fantastic, man.
Dude, I think my
so
favorite
nice.
I think my favorite line delivery of all time is in the parking garage scene in Candyman. The first time he says, "Be my victim."
Yeah.
That's like my favorite line delivery of all time, man.
Dude, when I was a kid, I believed Candyman and Bloody Mary and all that stuff was real. Where I lived in a rural mountains in Riverside County in California. And I remember after watching the movie Candyman, dude, he made me believe it. I remember the kids would go in the bathrooms and just and close the windows and they would stand there. Dude,
I'm good. I don't want to find out.
Dude, we were like, and we're kids, man, little kids, and we're just in there like we dare each other. We're like, we dare you to go in there and say Candyman. And like, man, I remember I went in there once and I'm just saying, I said it twice as a little kid. I'm there and I'm just gonna stay quiet. I'm not saying it anymore. And the kids are just waiting for me to come out, and I'm just standing there like, oh my god, Candyman got him. And I'm like, no, I just chickened out. Like, screw that.
I think to return back to Final Destination real quick.
Yeah.
I think that was the reason I was afraid of flying for so long. Because the first time the first time I flew was only like 3 years ago. And then when I got onto the flight, you know, I logged into the Wi-Fi and I'm on my phone looking for a movie to watch because I'm fucking terrified. I'm only flying to Texas from Jersey. It was like 3 hours.
Mhm.
But I was terrified, right? So I'm flipping through the free movies that they're offering, and I'm purposely looking for a movie without a plane crash. I thought
Snakes on a plane comes up.
Bro, I thought you know, plane on flight entertainment would not have movies, you know, with plane crashes on them. But they had like the Nicolas Cage World Trade Center movie. I was like, what is happening? Like, Final Destination was on there. I was like, oh, no way in hell that's happening. I think I watched like a Mission Impossible where there was a plane crash, and I was looking around like, oh no.
Dude, imagine every single movie in that lineup. It's all like having to do with planes. Like you just have if that wasn't a premonition
Airplane,
right there.
Final Destination, United 93. You're like, what is this flight? I'm like,
Turbulence, watching turbulence while on the flight.
Air Force One. You're like, oh no, what is this?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you guys right now too, talking about like Fate and Final Destination, all that, all of a sudden the entire day was a beautiful day, and right now it's like the lightning thunder is so intense. All of a sudden, literally, I just saw my whole window light up, and I'm like thinking, great, we've tested.
Oh no,
we've messed with Fate here. With
life is about perspective, because today it was stormy all day, and then at the end of the day, the sun came out. So I skipped it. You're next, man,
dude.
It's coming my way tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh hell. So
no. What did I watch on that? I think on that first flight, I watched No Time to Die. the 007 movie.
Oh,
And I was
nice.
pissed because the flight landed with 5 minutes left. So I didn't see the final 5 minutes until
You're
my
like the
flight
last
landed.
one on the flight.
You're like, hold on. One more.
Yeah.
It's almost done.
So can I ask you guys, like, how would you guys rank these movies? Or like, do you feel like some of these stand out to you guys more than others? I wish we could factor in the new one, but I guess going off the first 5.
I could definitely factor in the new one for you guys without a spoiler. Like, do you mean like, I guess, rate them like which ones are like from best to least?
Yeah, like which ones would you say you would come back to more so than the other ones, I guess? Or personal favorites.
1 and 3.
Okay.
Man, I want to say the first 3 for me. It's just because trauma level, just the amount of times I think about throughout life, like all the stuff that happened in those movies. The first 3, I'd say, and I wouldn't revisit the new one too often at all, unless I'm like binging them or something.
Mm-hmm.
But if I definitely want to get like, in a weird way, some inspiration or something, like some kind of positivity or like positive outlook about life and stuff like that, I'll revisit the new one.
Okay.
Because that's one thing they did that they didn't do with the originals. There was a message behind, like, it was interesting. It was a message, kind of like letting people know, like, hey, but it was different this time. It was it leaves you with a lot to think about than just the usual.
Yeah, kind of at face value. Q,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Oh.
Why is nobody talking?
We're watching you like hawks to make sure you came back. You
Yeah.
end up as Todd.
Where do you think I want to go, man?
Somehow
Yeah.
we see Corinne, like he's like hanging there, his pants are down, and it's like, what the hell?
Welcome to the Final Destination.
I know. I want to make sure there was no Buddha statue that was about to tip over or anything.
Yeah.
But I'll say mine would probably be the first 3 as well. Just because I remember where I was when I saw them, and I have so much of a huge memory surrounding those 3 movies. Those first 3 to me are my favorites.
Okay. I think, I don't know. It's tough because I feel like I put 1 at the top. I feel like 3 and 2 are kind of interchangeable. I guess it just depends on what I'm looking for in the movie necessarily. I can't 4. I don't. I just have so much disdain for that movie. It's just not. I just don't really care for it, or I feel like I would come back to it all that often. 5, I felt like was definitely more of a return to form. I'd probably put that like 1 a little bit higher, and I'm curious to see where Bloodlines ends up falling.
Well, I will say this. Was something here that Erin said. She said, I watched the Final Destination movie today, and leaving the theater in the car in front of us had a sticker that said, "If you're looking for a sign to stay alive, this is it." Weird coincidence. And dude, I'm gonna tell you, well, because Erin's my girlfriend, so I was there. We step out of the theater and this train blasts by all of a sudden, and then she's like, "That's weird." And we get in the car, and as soon as she looks forward, there's a sticker on a window, literally
That's
said
crazy.
that. And we're thinking, well, shit. Like, I'm gonna have to drive very slow and stay away from a congested street. But,
what are the odds of that, though,
dude? Like, that's how effect these movies have on people, where it really messes with your psyche in the most funnest way.
GC, I just want to make sure I can still barbecue after this, because I love that about the summer. I don't want that ruined for me. So
wait, you weren't affected by the final scene in Final Destination 2?
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember
that scene.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, he just explodes in the background and the arm lands on the picnic table.
I picture Steven like going electric. He's like, I'm gonna get one of those electric new fancy barbecue grills.
See, now there's a Final Destination movie I would see where everything that causes the death are like EVs. You know what I mean? Everything is electric. I think that's how I would go see that. Like a Tesla that just drives you. You have no control.
It just takes over and just like makes you go in like these horrible chores.
Horrible chores.
It's like that's like our horror. It's like
run errands I don't want to do.
it drives you to Target and it makes you stay there for like an hour.
I
Like,
just saw the
no.
lightning in your window.
You saw it, dude. I'm telling you, man. Like it's just getting stronger. It's like the universe is like, you messed around. Now it's gonna be your next close call.
I've been trying to figure out who the composer was for Final Destination Bloodlines because I want to listen to the score.
Dude, the music, the score, the music was fantastic. I honestly, I mean, I would love to own the soundtrack. I hope that if anybody does like a box set or anything, they do release a soundtrack. If somebody did do a box set, who do you guys think would make one?
I mean, I feel like my answer is always like, are you talking about for the soundtracks or the movies?
I guess for both, man, but particularly for the movies. Like if somebody, because I know, for example, Grindhouse releases soundtracks sometimes with their movies, with their box sets. But like, who do you think would make like a sick box set for this franchise? Like, do the right thing for them.
Man, my first thought was Arrow.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, it just feels like with I mean, it sounds like they're already dipping their toes in the waters of some of the movies that came out around that time anyways. And I just want to see if somebody does end up releasing this film like through a boutique label. I just want there to be like that same level of like investment in the presentation and all that. I just worry that if it's like it's just through the studio, you're just going to kind of get like nothing too exciting, for the release.
I feel like Arrow is a safe bet because they're already putting out a new line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like with clearly, obviously today on Christian's show, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning were announced. So they clearly have some sort of thing with New Line. I think the difference is, though, Final Destination is still an active franchise.
Yeah.
That's the issue. I think that's what I see, at least.
It's hard because I could see like if you were talking about the soundtracks, like if you wanted to get it released on like vinyl, for example, like Made by Mutant, I don't know, like maybe like that could be like a label that could release the soundtracks. But if I was just trying to get like a nice box set, I would hope that maybe like Arrow could do it, unless the studio wants to take it upon themselves.
What worries me about the soundtrack, GC, is the fact that they went from Brian Tyler, who did Final Destination 5, to Tim Wynn, who has only done video games. You know what I mean? Like, Brian Tyler is an incredible... Well, I don't even know if he's a composer, but his music's great.
Yeah.
And then to go to... So I don't know if it looks like... Brian Tyler's done, Jesus Christ, Marvel films and all kinds of stuff. Like Tim Wynn has done, he did the Squad Loadout and XCOM. He did.
Did it just start playing?
It did.
Oh God.
And we did the movie. He did the soundtrack for a movie called Freaks from 2019. Dude, he did the score for Red Faction Gorilla.
Oh.
Dude, don't overlook the Simpsons game.
It's not on Spotify. So, yeah, he did the soundtrack for Marvel's Midnight Suns, which I forgot even existed.
No, I'll tell you, man. Like we really enjoyed the music in that movie. Like especially with certain scenes and stuff like that. It was so good, man. It even got to the point where there were certain times where like music was playing and we're like bobbing our heads. We're like, hell yeah, like this is great. Like this was fun. Like I didn't feel like they had any modern music. It was just all like the classics, the good stuff.
Here's a good one for you guys. Do you guys think Ice Nine Kills will do a Final Destination song on their new album?
The what?
Is there any Ice Nine Kills fans on here?
I only know of the one song.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, jeez.
Like I'm familiar with them because they did work with for Terrifier, right?
Yeah.
Well, they did one song, yeah, but they both of actually the past 3 albums technically were all horror based. And pretty much every album that's what they do now. And I thought you guys would at least know, but I'm alone on this boat.
Sorry,
I
buddy.
always see, isn't the vocalist, doesn't he do a lot of like conventions?
Spencer Charnas, yeah.
Yep. That's about the beginning and end of what I know.
Yeah, no, they I mean they were I've loved Ice Nine Kills for a long time. So when they've always been like dabbled into like doing stuff for horror, but when they released Every Trick in the Book, which was the 3 albums ago now, they did like Communion of the Curse, which is an Exorcist song. They did a bunch of cool stuff, and then they really leaned into it with Silver Screen, and that's when they did like a Halloween song, Never on Elm Street. And then now they're doing Welcome to Horrorwood, which had like Cabin Fever, Resident Evil, Candyman. Like, I just wonder if they'll do a Final Destination track.
That'd be freaking.
That would be cool.
I'm putting it out in the universe so we get that box set.
Dude, please, man, because that would be awesome. Like, finally, man. Like, it's just, I need some recognition. I'm hoping that with this one, I also hope too that I'm pretty sure Tony Todd gave some behind the scenes stuff, or they probably interviewed him, like for either for this movie or to ask them about the previous movies, because if they're already, obviously it's going to get released on physical media, so I'm hoping they have some kind of like a recap, like the history of Final Destination, or going back to the first one, and they kind of talk to him about his thoughts on it and all that stuff.
Yeah, did you guys ever I don't know, did you guys ever read any of the Final Destination original novels that were written?
Dude, I didn't know there was novels for it.
Me neither.
Yeah, so New Line, years, like I'm going back probably like 20 plus years, did they started their own publication, and they did like Friday the 13th, Church of the Divine Psychopath, Friday the 13th, Hell Lake. They did a couple Nightmare on Elm Street books. They also did Final Destination books. I think they did 3 of them. And one of them, the main incident, like the big beginning scene, was, I thought, really good. And it was at a concert. And the concert was on, like, I guess, like a second floor of a building, and the floor fell out.
Ooh.
And that's sort of like what happened. You know what I mean? It all starts because of that. To me, I think that's a really, like, that's the kind of stuff I feel like they can channel really well and not blow the budget out of the water.
Yeah.
And not have tons of, I mean, how many times are you at big events or concerts and stuff? And I know there's been times where, like, I've been there and I'm like, God, if something was to happen, I don't know how I would get out of, you know what I mean? Like, you're surrounded by thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
That's how it was when I saw Blink-182. I think it was it last summer? I think it was last summer or the summer before, whenever. But I remember being in Little Caesars Arena, and it's like there's thousands of people there. I'm like thinking to myself, like, we were kind of a little bit higher up, but I'm like, dude, I don't know what, like, how the hell would you get out of here if God forbid something happened? Like,
Yeah.
So there was, oh my God, hold on. There was 9 Final Destination books. 3 of them were adaptations of the first 3 movies. But listen how cool this is. Book 2, called Destination Zero, a journalist discovers that a Victorian England relation of her escaped from the clutches of Jack the Ripper.
really?
And now death has followed her bloodline, is after her.
Dude, that's cool.
Let's see. This is End of the Line. What's that one? There's Dead Man's Hand.
I would love to get into more novelizations, or like where they kind of expand like the.
These are
universe.
expensive, bro.
Really?
Like, these are like the Friday the 13th ones are like $600 a piece. You can find them for. They're really.
Why are they so much?
Because they were so. I owned all of these at some point in my life, in my youth.
What did you do to them?
Something, man. Like, look, this one here, Death of the Senses, Final Destination. When a homeless man saves a young policewoman from a psychopath killing him in self-defense, he unknowingly saves 6 other people who were gonna die by the hands of that killer. and then now death comes after them. There's really creative ways to.
Wow.
Man, it almost feels like those. It just even with those two books, like the premise. I mean that I feel like could have translated really well to doing that in a movie.
Yeah, dude. Like, there's interesting ways to. At a Limp Bizkit concert.
They did it all for the nookie.
Yep.
I had a brief. All right, so you can get the first Final Destination book used on eBay for $71.
Jesus.
And that's the only listing for it. No, my favorite thought was when Steve was talking about he thought about that at a Blink-182 concert, and I could see like chaos erupts, and Steve and his it's your wife, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Steve and his wife get separated, and Steve's like, "Honey, where are you?" Like, I don't know why I thought about that.
Yeah, man.
His eye, your life is flashing behind, like in front of your eyes, and all you keep thinking is like, "I'll never get back to that beautiful girl that's waiting for me."
I guess honestly, there's worse ways to go out. I guess if it had to be the Blink-182 concert, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Dude, I think that happened at some concert where the stage kind of collapsed, like towards the front, and people, unless it's a movie that I saw and I can't remember, but the stage, I remember seeing like footage of it, and it like collapsed, and there was people kind of getting pulled under the stage and stuff. It was like a whole situation. But
Well,
dude,
yeah.
like
I
you
think it
remember
was-
Stevenson, right?
Was it that, or was it the oh my god, what the hell was that concert with Travis Scott where everybody got crushed?
Oh, that was
in the crowd, Astro Fest or something?
that was Astro World in Texas.
Yeah, they had so many people crammed into these areas, and the whole crowd rushed forward, and people were being crushed at the front, like near the stage. And a lot of people got hurt because of that.
That's insane, man. Like you see like all these everyday activities, and we never realize it's like it could just snap of a finger.
For sure.
Travis Scott's watching you die.
Yeah.
So, GC, what's the final like letterboxd rating consensus of Bloodlines?
Ooh,
Which, by the way, letterboxd is down. Oh wait, it's back up. I reported it was down. Now it's back up.
it was down because everybody was going on there just freaking talking about Bloodlines. Man, it's a tough one. I want to say if it wasn't for I'm gonna start speaking about the acting. I was worried about the acting, seeing the trailer, seeing these new actors. I was worried that they were gonna make it very cheesy, very TikTok-ish and all that. They did fantastic. I was very impressed by that. Like exceeded my expectations. I think what ruined it for me was the CGI a lot of the times, and the kind of making it a little too spoon-fed when it came to like the death scenes instead of kind of messing with you. They did a good job with that, but if it wasn't for those two things, I would have honestly given it a 4. But because of those things, I want to say I'm giving it a 3.
Okay.
I didn't know this movie was supposed to be a straight to HBO Max title.
Really?
Like Evil Dead Rise, yeah. And they decided to reverse it and go to theatrical.
That would have been a shame if they would have streamed it, because I mean it's a Final Destination. Anybody that has seen any of the originals would line up to see this.
Was Alien Romulus like that at one point? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Somebody left a somebody just left a review on Letterboxd for Final Destination Bloodlines and said, I expected more blood.
I like it.
Dude, I'm telling you, like it's just for me, Final Destination's always been like comfort food type movie where I mean no matter how batshit crazy those situations are, it's like I talked earlier, Steven and Q, like it's like watching Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. No matter what happens, they could change up the whole story and the whole cast. We always come back because we grew up with those franchises and we're so loyal to them.
Yeah.
That it's like we know we're gonna read the reviews and they're gonna be like, just don't even go in there and pay the $8 or $10 or $15. we're gonna pay anyway because we've already sat through the other monstrosities of Final Destinations. Like, what's one more?
I feel like, I mean, are there really franchises maybe that came out, I would say, during our time that you would have like a similar reception to? Because I feel like the ones that I think of are like Scream to a certain extent, this franchise, Saw, and maybe Paranormal Activity. For better or worse, I guess, for some of these movies, but
Paranormal Activity is one of them for sure. That's
Limp
just
Bizkit,
continued on.
Woodstock,
Oh yeah,
Dude, that was crazy. I don't know if you guys saw the footage for that. That was insane. He
I'm
just
reading letterbox reviews for Final Destination Bloodlines, and somebody said another reason not to have kids.
Seriously, man.
Somebody else said death runs in the family. Oh, Dom Toretto is not going to like that. And then my my favorite one is Wake Up Babe, a new generational trauma just launched.
That's awesome.
I mean, there's gonna be I don't think there was, like I said before, kill scenes where they're gonna like really haunt you for another 15-20 years, but I do think that there was moments where it's gonna make you think twice about your surroundings.
For sure.
Bro, I already think twice about my surroundings all the time.
All right, guys, I gotta bounce, but
dude,
this has been fun.
Well, before we end it, I guess, I mean, I know Chris is gonna jump off too. I'm kind of a little tired myself. Dudes, if you guys want to go ahead and leave your socials and all this stuff where people could find you, if you want to start it off.
Yeah, you can find me here on YouTube at Q the Movie Collector, or you can follow me on Instagram at Q the Movie Collector. Real simple.
Guys, go follow this man and go subscribe because he is doing amazing things, and he started not too long ago and he's just crushing it. Such a cool dude.
Listen, I just want to say real quick to anybody who wants to follow Jordan, otherwise known as the Movie Den. He's currently texting me from the movie theater about Clown in the Cornfield. So this man texted
Oh, I gotta read it.
You gotta read it to us.
He's actively texting me, and I said, "Are you in the theater right now?" And he went, "Yep."
That's wild.
He clearly didn't watch before the trailers, the warnings about putting your phones away.
That's so funny.
I guess I'll go. You can find me on Instagram. It's a bearded film guy. That's about the only place you can find me. You can go watch some old YouTube videos if you want. But also, Steve and I host an incredible podcast, I think, along with our buddy Chuck, called Beyond the Blood, where we review movies talk about movies using their audio commentary as a guide. Our season 1 finale is only a couple weeks away. We're doing The Burning. And very excited about that. Jordan just said, "Who needs Wi-Fi before groceries?" And then, we have some huge news coming up, like giant news that nobody knows about yet. So
it's getting closer.
Find it, enjoy it. Let us know what you think. We should cover the Final Destination franchise now. Thinking about this.
Listen, I'm always down to do another rewatch.
If you guys need a guest on that one, let me know.
Dude, we're already like pre decided our episodes for like the next year.
Well, I hope Brain Scan's in there.
Look, if you guys do a Phantasm episode, I want in.
Is it bad? I legit thought you were gonna say Fantastic Four at first.
No,
I thought the same thing.
Like that. Silver Surfer. You guys cover Fantastic Four. Rise of Silver Surfer.
My god.
Dude. And I want to add on there to whoever's watching this or whoever's going to watch this in the future. Make sure to follow their podcast. I mean, Beyond the Blood is phenomenal. I mean, Chris,
thanks, man.
Steven, Chuck, all you guys, like, dude, Chris, dude, you've poured, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure blood at this point, sweat, tears into this. I mean, dude, this is something you've had a passion for, like, for movies and horror. And I mean, you starting that off and then Steven getting involved. It's been so exciting to just listen to. And I'm going to keep, like Steven says, I'm going to keep pounding at the table and waiting for your YouTube resurrection. And I'm going to keep telling people in all these chats and commenting to make sure to bring the bearded film guy back to YouTube as well, because
The second
We're,
coming.
we're gonna make him
need
do
you.
it. We're gonna
We're
make
gonna-
him do it.
We're gonna chat GPT a picture of the second coming of you standing there with like this whole like beautiful scene with microphones and cameras and everything. It's gonna be great. But
Well, the good news is not returning fully, but season 2 of Beyond the Blood podcast will be video format.
Hey,
you heard it here
So
first, guys.
we will be doing that for season 2.
Dude.
And I think the first video on YouTube is going to be our August episode for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Buckle up,
Looking forward
guys.
to it. Dude, Steven, let us know, brother. Where can we find you?
You guys can find me at After Hours Video. Or I can't even talk. At After Hours Video. There we go. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. And then obviously on the Beyond the Blood podcast, where Chris and I get to chop it up over some of our favorite movies.
Hell yeah. And guys, whoever's watching, obviously you're subscribed probably. If you're not, you find me at Face the Movies on YouTube and Instagram. I'm on Twitter too. I think all these guys are probably the only ones that follow me on there.
Follow up. Listen, I
Yeah.
would love to connect with more people on X, aka Twitter.
Yeah, man, on there. And I do have a podcast, Friday Night Fright Night, with my buddy from Cinema Whiplash, Lee. We're trying to do 1 episode to 2 episodes a month, so we're kind of still working on that. We're on season 2. But guys, I just want to say thank you for everybody watching and hanging out with us for like the whole 2 hours. And Chris, thank you for jumping on and surprising us. Q and Steven. Dude, guys, what a blast, man.
So much fun.
The nostalgia.
Thanks for
that
having
was
us on,
awesome.
man.
Thank you, man.
Dude, of
Thank
course,
you, man.
Dude, let's do it again, guys. We got to pick another franchise like this. We gotta keep the 90s and early 2000s alive.
Oh man, I've got some ideas.
We'll cover the Mary Lambert classic Urban Legends Bloody Mary.
Let's do it. Let's do the Urban Legends franchise, man. That's the next one.
All right, guys.
All right, guys.
Later,
All right,
guys.
Guys, have a good
Peace.
night.